Hey guys, so I'm figuring that nobody's probably online right now. It's like almost 3 o'clock in the morning. I have had the craziest schedule for the past week and a half, 2 weeks, trying to get certain things together with a new schedule. So I apologize very heavily that I didn't come up here sooner to go over the new moon in Libra. But I wanted this video to be available for you guys tomorrow morning, or I should say later on today in a few hours, for those of you that definitely were looking out for this video. So this was definitely kind of goes along with the theme because everything that's going on right now in the sky is really placing importance on what value means to all of us. That's definitely the main theme here with this. And that being said, value really has to do with not just value within self, value within others, value within what you do to also create more value for self. So this is something very, 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 very important to me, getting out this information for you guys, and I'm becoming more understanding to even myself by being able to do so. So even at 3 o'clock in the morning, if I have to get this information out to you after a crazy schedule all night, I definitely am going to do that for you guys. And ultimately, it's going to bring more positive energy to myself as well when I realize how I still suck through to my responsibilities. So I wanted to come and talk to you guys about this new moon. Now, there's so much going on leading up to this point that I really wanted to take the time to be able to express what exactly is really leading up to this point, with how many different transits there's been in the sky for the past, I want to say, like, I'm looking back at my dates. This video I'm really going to be covering probably since all the way back to the Pisces full moon. So that is August 26th. So I want to kind of cover there all the way up till now. And I mean, oh my God, I'm so busy. I don't even know what today's date is. It's like the 11th or something. Maybe the 12th. This is really sad. But as far as I'm concerned, I kind of just wanted to go from that area all the way up until now, and kind of show you how important it is to understand how the transits work and how they kind of correlate with your life, and why they're so heavy, depending on like if you have certain placements that match with them, or you know, that affects you on a different basis. So that being said, bear with me. I definitely am going to be bringing up a lot of different terms right now. They might kind of make you feel like, you know, what the hell does that mean? But I promise you guys, if you go back to my previous videos, you will definitely see in my previous videos how all of this definitely aligns and makes a lot more sense. And I actually discovered that I probably should make some sub videos on different terms as well, to kind of make you guys understand what I mean. I'm going to be covering a little bit about twin souls and twin flames inside of this video, and I'm going to make a separate video that talks about that as well. And I think it's perfect for the season, since we are at Venus in Scorpio and in retrograde. So I think that would definitely help you guys understand how potent that you know, vibe is. All right, so let's first talk about Pisces full moon, right? If you go back to my previous videos, Pisces full moon really talked about anytime you have a full moon, you're actually taking the sun and moon and they're opposing each other. So whatever the sun is representing, the moon is representing, it's opposing that energy, and it's really about finding the balance between the two energies and compromising to utilize both and see how important it is to have two halves to come together. Having two strong energies separated in individual energies is a beautiful thing, but I've talked about this with the concept of the numbers 1, 2, and 3. You know, you have a full 1, and in order to get to 3, which is the number of creation, you have to be able to have another full 1. So it has to be legit 2 full 1s, and that's going to bring you to that 2. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, when you're able to get to that 2, that's when you can create, and that becomes 3. So it's important to understand that having two different energies that are so strong and so potent are beautiful, and especially when they're opposing each other. But ultimately, coming to that compromise is really what's going to cause that harmony and cause that balance. And that's typically what the Libra new moon is about. It's about creating the balance, because Libra talks a lot about the scales. And if you know a Libra, which many of us do, or you are a Libra yourself, you understand that there is a struggle with trying to pick a side. And what that ultimately comes from is that you could see both sides to a story. You can understand both abilities. You can understand why you might choose one over the other, but then want to still have a piece of the other. It's you understand the concept of the fact that both vibes are needed to really ultimately create, which is three. So understanding that, which is so interesting, because Libra, a number to describe Libra would definitely be the number 2. And if you guys take the time to go to numerology and or Google numerology and the meaning of number 2, it talks a lot about harmony and balance and seeing the beauty within both sides, etc. It's pretty much what I'm displaying or talking about right now. So that really has to do, with finding that balance. And when you think of new beginnings, because I just explained full moon is the opposing luminaries, they're working, I don't want to say against each other, but it's more so they're really like poking their chest out. They're poking their chest out. Well, the sun would be poking its chest out more because it's that ego mentality. It's that masculine side of ourselves. And then the feminine, which is the female, which is the moon, is kind of, I would say, more in her emotions. She's more able to show her emotions, and she's not afraid to. So you have those two luminaries coming together, really trying to work, I don't want to say, like I said, against each other, but they're being strong within themselves, and it's causing us to have some friction there, so that way we can find that even compromise. Okay, with a new moon is all about beginning. So that means that within the sky, they're actually at the same exact degree, in the same sign. So they're working together in order to create some new beginning and rebirth. Okay, and that usually comes from having a previous full moon, having endings occur, and then as soon as those endings occur, it's now bringing that new rebirth into something else that's magical. And full moons really are creating the space for any of those new beginnings to come in, and for them to be able to be fulfilled. So let's backtrack again, because now that we understand that the new moon is really bringing in new beginnings of balance and harmony, imagine what that comes from. That can really come from positive things. Maybe you had a positive experience, or that can come from a lot of riffraff, and then kind of organizing everything out and getting rid of all the gunk, and that's really what's going to bring those new beginnings of balance. And that's pretty much what has been occurring, the second one. So let's go back again to talk about the Pisces moon that happened back in, excuse me, I have all these little notes so I can keep track with my dates. So the Pisces full moon was August 26th, okay? What that really represented, and if you want more detail on this, please, by all means, feel free to go back to that video. It's very specific in the Pisces full moon, but I'm just going to talk about it a little so you can understand the flowing of how we get to the Libra new moon. So Pisces full moon, what it was the moon in Pisces, and it was the sun in Virgo. Okay, so anytime, like I said, you have a full moon, you have opposing forces that are trying to find that compromise. So when you think of Pisces, Pisces really has to do with spirituality. It has to do with dreaming. And when I say dreaming, I don't necessarily just mean dreaming while you sleep, but and it does apply to that as well, but it also mainly applies to the fact of dreaming in general. So whether you are daydreaming about something that you have dreams about, or whether you are dreaming at night about something that's on your conscience and that your subconscious is really tapping into, that's that Pisces energy. So it has to do with the dreaming aspect. It also has to do with unconditional love. Okay, that's really that Pisces energy. Understanding that at the end of the day, this is all a simulation, but we all come into this world wanting love, wanting to spread love, and it is really the dynamic of media and I would say friends and even your parents in many ways that are really trying to change how you view how the world, like as things happen, as experiences come, it really kind of tricks you to make you think that there's this trauma there. And ultimately, at the end of the day, if you think about it, when you sleep and then you wake up and you're still in dream state, you don't really necessarily remember what's going on in this plane. You really don't. It doesn't really hit you of all the memories of what's going on until you wake up and you've decided to actually really wake up. And then what ends up happening is, in turn, you're in dream state. You remember what your dream is. Your dream is like right there in the back, like it's right there. Not even in the back of your mind. It's just sitting right in front of you. And then once you decide to wake up, now it's almost like they switch, right? So now you're waking up in this world, and now your dream world floats away. And for those people that don't take the time to write their dreams down in a journal, most of the time we just kind of forget what happens. We forget details. I can't even tell you, like I mentioned in a previous video, that I am a Pisces rising. I have a Aquarius Pisces. I'm an Aquarius rising technically, but I have equal parts of Aquarius and Pisces within my first house. So I like to consider myself to be a Aquarius Pisces rising because I definitely match up so heavily to both signs. And ultimately, at the end of the day, my chart really follows the Pisces kind of like order, as far as like being with the placements of where the signs are in my houses. So that being said, I had mentioned in a previous video talking about Neptune, I believe, because I have Neptune in my second house. And actually, no, this was a different video. Excuse me for that. But, oh, this was when Neptune was, I believe, this is when Neptune entered retrograde. And I was describing the fact that Neptune is actually in my first house during its retrograde process this year. And it's really starting to channel in some dreams going on. Like, I'm like, what is really happening? What's going on here, you know? And my dreams are becoming more vivid, and they're becoming more clear. And there was an incident where I saw a name, a title inside of my dream, and I woke up into this, you know, reality. And when I woke up into this plane or reality, I Googled what that name was, and it ended up helping me with something that I was trying to figure out in this particular plane. So it's kind of crazy how that works, and ultimately at the end of the day, that's the reason why it's a beautiful thing as far as the Pisces concept and conscience. But there also is a balance to that, and what that is Virgo. So where Pisces speaks of spirituality, Virgo speaks of practicality. Where Pisces speaks of the subconscious, Virgo speaks of physical health, like the subconscious health versus physical health. Both signs definitely cover the idea of unconditional love. However, Virgo is more focused on what's in reality, where Pisces is more geared towards what's far beyond reality, because of the fact that, you know, it's earth versus water. You know, Virgo is earth, Pisces is water, okay? So without going so detailed into this, because again, I told you guys that I have a video on this specifically, I wanted you guys to understand and remember what happened with that moon, because basically what that moon did was it reminded us of the things that we dreamt of, and it reminded us also that in order to be able to get to those dreams, we also have to think of practical ways to be able to obtain those dreams. So you really had that moment of push and pull and back and forth tugging, where your emotions were saying one thing. It's like, I want these things. These are the things I've always dreamt of. These are the things that I really want. And I'm so sick of having to deal with the fact that I can't have them. And ultimately, at the end of the day, the Virgo side of yourself is saying, okay, but how do we get those things in a practical way? What do we have currently, right? What is in our area right now that we can utilize? Because Virgo, that sign is very resourceful. And I say that knowing this as well because I am a Virgo sun. We tend to, because we focus so heavily on detail, we are able to take things and just naturally like utilize them to pre-build. And I say pre-build because typically Virgo handles the details, so that way Capricorn can go ahead and build from those details, because Capricorn doesn't deal with details. So Capricorn will go ahead and build on top of those details, whatever Virgo created, and then give it to Taurus, and Taurus will direct it. Okay, so that's pretty much how the earth signs kind of work themselves out. Now, that being said, being that a Virgo is able to take little details, that also means that we're able to focus on, if something is missing, we become resourceful into filling out those details, so that way we can then pass it on to the next person in line who takes care of and builds everything up. So, Virgos tend to look around them and see, what do I have that I can utilize in place of the things that I don't have. And that's a beautiful thing, because now as this full moon, you have all these concepts ending that get in the way. You know what I mean? Like, these things that you don't necessarily need, they're kind of like pushed out of the window. And that could be for anything. That could be for not just, you know, your dreams. That could be people that are not supporting the dream. They gotta go. You know what I mean? People that are not about that value, not about pushing. Because again, I always say this, no matter what moon it is, self-love is the destination 24/7. And the reason for that is because you cannot really produce anything. You can't create. Creation is love in itself. Even if you break down the numerology behind love, it equals the number 3, which is creation. So you can't create anything if there's not love there. Now, that doesn't say that there's people that haven't, you know, had babies out of wedlock with someone who they necessarily didn't love. I'm not saying that, but it ultimately took the love of that vibe. There was a vibe of love in order to create something. And that can also be said about lust, which lust is the opposite of love. It's the same concept. Some people might say hate, but then some people might argue that and say, in order to be able to hate someone, you have to actually love them. Like, it's just impossible to hate. There's a part of you that really, like, it cares. In order for you to really, really hate something, there's a part of you that desperately, like, cares about something that has to do with that factor of what you hate. So, in a way, when I look at relationships or two people getting together, whether it be in the act of sex, I see the opposite of love being lust. You know, usually people don't sleep together that despise each other to like they hate it. It's very hard concept. I know that seems sexy in the movies, but that's not really like a thing. You know, you don't sleep with somebody that you like are disgusted. It just doesn't. No, lust is something, or it could even be power, but ultimately that falls under that characteristic of lusting someone. And I would say that would be like the equal half. Again, if you look up the numerology behind lust, it still is 3. So creation can come from that stem, is my point. And that being said, if somebody is in the way of that concept where you can create, right? Because creating is really like, that's everything. You know, like I heard in a video, they said that the whole concept of even marriage is to create things. Because not saying that you have to be religious to grasp this concept of what I'm about to say, because I'm not a religious person as far as like that area. I'm more spiritual. But in the video, she was expressing how, you know, the first thing that God said in Genesis when, you know, Adam and Eve, before, like, or I should say after the whole Lilith concept, was God said, go create, go out and create things, do things, like, you know what I mean, build things together. And ultimately it was building things together as each other's halves, or as the masculine and feminine side of self, you know, two beings representing those things. And that basically would represent the idea behind a full moon, is the fact that there is the feminine side is in Pisces, and the masculine side would be in Virgo. Ironically, both of these signs are feminine signs. However, they are feminine in their own way, and they're actually both mutable, which is pretty cool as well. So they're feminine in their own way, and they're both mutable. Anyway, going off on a tangent. So that's pretty much what happened at the Pisces moon, and that was August 26th of this year. Okay, so you have the idea of the dreams versus practicality. Again, saying, all right, I have this dream. How am I going to obtain this dream, right? So then after that situation happened, we had about 2 weeks, and then we had the new moon in Virgo. So how that comes about, and that occurred on September 9th, 2018. Now, I totally apologize that I did not get this video out to you guys. I was going through some stuff myself. Again, it's one thing for you to know the placements. It's another thing to know the placements and then you're going through it, but it's still not changing the fact that you're going through it. In fact, it actually pushes things harder, because you're like, okay, well, I'm kind of seeing this from the outside of you. This is what's going on in my life. How do I apply it? Because it's silly for me to know information and not to utilize it. But anyway, that being said, so a little bit of understanding on the new moon in Virgo. Now you're setting intentions on starting something in a new beginning, right? You cleared out all the energy that wasn't supporting your dreams with a full moon, because full moon represents closures, and now you're allowing something to be reborn, which is ultimately you setting those intentions to say, all right, now that I've cleared the air and I realize what my dreams are and anything that gets in my way needs to go, now I'm going to go ahead and set the intentions to organize everything that I need, right? So once you approached your emotions, once you've seen the practical sides of them, and you've seen both sides of the emotions, and when I say emotions, the dreams, and the practicality that's needed, now it's time to actually be practical, and it's time to set intentions in a practical manner. So now you're going ahead and organizing everything, and ultimately this is also going to fine-tune things. So, and it makes perfect sense, because Virgo, again, loves details. That character, that archetype loves details. So this is when, yes, you've cleared out some of the air when it comes to the full moon aspect. However, now you're going in really nitty-gritty, and you're going in and saying, all right, anything that I have not clipped the weeds that are not going to benefit at all, like I know I've already done that with the full moon, now I'm really going to get in there and I'm going to be extremely critiquey about everything, right? That is one thing that I could definitely say with the Virgo energy. Virgos can be critical. Now, I will tell you this, they're not just critical on you, they're 10 times more critical on self. That being said, oh, I'm sorry, it said low network. I got scared for a second because everything was going well. Okay, so yes, Virgos can be critical. And again, they're critical, they're 10 times more critical on themselves, so it's not anything that's like, you know, they're not just doing it to you. And ultimately, they're doing it to you because they want to better you. That's really what it is. It's a perfectionist, like, worrisome. Everything has to be, like, top-notch and prepared. Preparation is key for Virgo. And without that preparation, there's worrisome feelings. You get a little bit worried. So, that being said, if you have that natural vibe of being like, okay, I want to go in and make sure I fine-tune everything and make sure everything is really broken down, make sure that I go ahead and take the details and overlook the details and make sure the details are even fine-tuned and make sure that everything is aligned, and if it's not, now I'm really going to clip the little itty bitty roots that I could see sprouting up of being a problem, but they're not quite even like blossoming yet, but my intuition, right, because that Pisces energy is intuition, that Virgo energy is intuition. Those two signs specifically are big on intuition. So it's like, you know what, I'm going to go with that, and I see that there's a weed here. It's not really fully grown, but I know that this weed, which this could be a person, this could be vibes within self, this could be a location, this could be a job, this could be anything, but it is in the way of what my dreams were. When I talked about when I set my intentions for my dreams, and I said I'm going to get rid of anything that was in my way with my dreams at the full moon in Pisces, now I'm going to make sure I fine tune, and that was the new moon in Virgo. Okay, that being said, yeah, everything needs to be organized and etc. That's how that played out as far as the new moon in Virgo. So that was September 9th. Okay, now after September 9th. Actually on the same day, which is interesting, and I kind of want to go back and do this video because this was an interesting time period. You got the new moon in Virgo on September 9th, and then Venus decides to step into Scorpio the same very day of September 9th. So now you have fine-tuning. However, you have this big blast of intensity that's coming from Venus now being in Scorpio. Now, in previous videos, which I have posted in the past couple even days and last, I think, 2 weeks, I've discussed Venus and Scorpio in more detail. When I say Venus and Scorpio, Venus means how you express self. It means how, and not from a sun way, right? You have the sun, which is the ego, and that's expression because the sun is actually governs Leo, which is all about self-expression. The fifth house is all about self-expression, which Leo governs the fifth house. However, Venus is more of like an artistic expression. It's how you express yourself artistically. It's how you love. It is how you create your style of music that you like. It is your style of, you know, when you think cooking even, because Venus rules both Taurus and Libra. So Venus has to do with relationships and partnerships and how you relate to other people, but it also has to do with value, and value also covers what you intake in your body, because second house is Taurus, and second house supports the first house, which is the first house is the body. So anything that's in the second house, which is the food intake, family assets, even speech, it's the same concept of it's supporting the body, okay? Which is in the first house. So this is second house that's ruled by Taurus. So therefore, that's pretty much what Venus is all about. Anything that's Libra and anything that's Taurus. So we're talking, again, partnerships, relationships, even law, because Libra has to do with the law system, justice system. And it also has to do with value, both spiritual value and monetary value, family assets, collector's items, etc. And again, food intake. All right, so those are what that means. But then when you put that in Scorpio, Scorpio is the sign of depth. It's the sign of taking everything that's hidden and shining a light on it. But the difference here is that Venus in Scorpio, for somebody who actually has a Venus in Scorpio in their chart, or Venus in 8th house, which 8th house is ruled by Scorpio, so it's the same concept, but like it's different. However, there's similar vibes on what they do. It causes an issue, and I mentioned this earlier in a status. Like, I have Venus in 8th house, and I figured, you know what, this is going to be a breeze. Holy crap. Whoa, it is literally like taking I said this in the status, 3 shots in 30 seconds of just, and no chaser, just taking it, and you just have to sit there and be like, okay, that's not going to happen, you know? People with Venus in Scorpio, Venus in 8th house, are usually the ones that shine light on everyone else, and really rarely ever get their light shined onto them. They are able to release things more as a process and more in a time measurable release. Like, it's thought of, you know, it's processed, it is premeditated before, you know, release. It's really, we meditate on it a little bit longer than someone that just jumps and gives information. However, Venus being in Scorpio is the energy of something greater being Venus in Scorpio. It's not just the people that have Venus in Scorpio. So they don't get, you know, a pass. You know, anyone with Venus in Scorpio or Venus in 8th house, which again, 8th house is Scorpio, anyone with those two placements are feeling it right now. And especially with it being in retrograde, that's also bringing a reflection mode, okay? But I didn't step into that yet. All I'm telling you is that Virgo moon, the new moon that happened on September 9th, also that's when Venus entered Scorpio, okay? Venus also was in pre-shadow during this time, because Venus went in pre-shadow on September 2nd. Pre-shadow is pretty much when things start rearing up before the planet goes into retrograde. So this is packing time. This is when you like start slacking off a little bit when you're at work and you're like, well, I'm gonna be going to, like, you know, Egypt in like 10 days. I really am going to, like, I'll catch up a little bit, but like eventually I'm gonna be like, yeah, I'm out, you know? That's pretty much the pre-shadow. So in the beginning it's not as you know, slow, but then once you get closer to the date of retrograde, you're kind of like, well, I don't really care anymore because I'm about to leave, right? That's pretty much how that is. So the way that works is that this was already in its pre-shadow period. So now you have organization, but it's also meeting how you value yourself in a deep way. So now you're really, 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 really clipping those roots that don't, and I say roots, the roots of the weeds. Like, you are able to now go under the surface, because again, Scorpio is under the surface. That's what Scorpio is. It's like everyone's up here and Scorpio is down here in Hades, like watching everyone, like just, you know, kind of like gazing up, looking at everybody's business, being secretive and not being seen because it's hidden, right? So being that Venus, how we see our value and how we express ourselves is in Scorpio. And now you have the new moon in Virgo, which is seeing, you know, that is allowing itself to be critical and going and narrowing down all the details. It's pretty much what they are. It's that the new moon was sextile to Venus, because they're basically working together and they're blending in their own way of like getting the job done, right? So now Virgo is allowed to go deeper than what it normally is, because Scorpio is opening up those gates for Virgo to go in there to get those details and to clip even deeper down to where those roots of those weeds are. All right, so that's pretty much what happened on September 9th. So now we skip over a couple weeks, and now we have the full moon in Aries. Full moon in Aries. Okay. I would advise you guys to really watch that video. I say this because that moon was hell. I'm not even kidding. I was in New Jersey when I made that video, and I talked a lot about how that was not the moon to cry, that was the moon to scream. And the reason why is because the moon was actually sextile to Mars, and the sun was trine to Mars. So it was already in Aries, right? And then you have this fire that's just naturally happening because Mars rules Aries. So it's almost like, hey, how you doing? You know, governing planet. So godmother, godfather, what's up? I'm happy in this place, right? Mars is it was causing some friction. And the crazy thing is that when you think of Mars also, it rules both Aries and Scorpio. So now you have the full moon in Aries, and then you have Venus hanging out in Scorpio. So there's already that natural intensity. The difference between Aries and Scorpio when it comes to that Mars aggressive energy is that Mars is aggressive with Aries outwardly, where with Scorpio it's inward. So it's almost like with that moon, it was like all the energy that we were feeling inside of us, like it was just boiling and boiling and boiling, and how we even see our value is being affected, because now whatever's going on around us might be intimidating that concept, might be making us realize how important it is with that concept to, like, if somebody made you really, really upset and there was somebody that you were very close to, but they were like nitpicking at little things, right? Because everyone's going through that new moon, everyone's going through that full moon, you know, and they might not necessarily say that they were right about nitpicking with that Virgo concept, but they were. And maybe you're just fed up. So you just internalize all those emotions in that inward, like, intensity. And ultimately, at the end of the day, when the Aries full moon came, being that I like to say, like, Aries is the spark of the fire. Leo is like the comfortable fire. It's the normal fire. It's more controlled. And Sagittarius is like the wildfire. It's like everywhere, just enjoying life. And being passionate pretty much, and just spreading knowledge to everyone. It's just all over the place, right? Aries is that spark. It's quick. It's the ram. It doesn't have time to think about anything. It just goes. That's pretty much what that Aries concept is. So with that being said, now you have all this inward energy that's going on with the Venus and Scorpio, and it's like, oh, I value myself and these people don't understand, or my job's pissing me off, or my relationship is just doing too much, or maybe I had plans with this, or I feel this way about myself, or whatever the concept may be. And then it started coming out in spurts, and it kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper, because it's going and just bringing up all that Scorpio energy, all that gook that you feel, and all the things you want to say. However, at the same time, it's not doing it right off the bat. It's just doing it in spurts, because it's just every time it's lighting the fire, lighting the fire, lighting the fire. That same thing that, like, when you think of an Aries, when you piss an Aries off, they come right at you. It's that light. And then if you laugh at it, because once an Aries actually, like, says how they feel, it's like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna go back to hanging out. And you're like, so like, you just yelled at me. And they're like, why are you still talking about that? They could literally have veins popping out of their neck, and like, you're still upset about it, and they're just like, you need to move on, we have things to do, right? That's like an Aries energy, because it's the spark. That's really what matters for them, is that spark. They don't stay in it. It's just, it's there for the moment, and then they move on to something else, onto another adventure, as an Aries would do. So that's pretty much what happened with your emotions during that time of the Aries full moon, was that this was the time that, like, you're screaming, you're getting things out. I also believe that Mercury was also conjunct. I could be wrong, so please, all you astrology perfectionistas, don't like rip me for it. I could be wrong. I didn't write this down, but it is in my other video that I wrote, but I'm pretty sure Mercury was also conjunct with the moon or the sun. Can't quite remember. I'm pretty sure it was the moon, though. Pretty sure Mercury was in Aries on September 24th as well. But I do remember speaking on this, where Mercury had some relation to the full moon, and ultimately it was saying, like, it was helping us get out our emotions, although we really wanted to keep them in. It was just, it was flooding. It was flooding. It was flooding. And I had my own personal experiences with that, because let me tell you, I was getting at everything that I felt, and it was just a lot. And it's needed, because let me explain to you why all this is happening, right? You have the fire of that. You have also, like, it was quincunx Venus, so that means that they're working separately. You know, you have the Aries moon, that's like, you know, it's fire, fire, fire. The quincunx of Venus and Scorpio wants you to kind of stay in your lane and keep everything quiet. It doesn't really work. They're working separately, but they're awkward next to each other, which is ultimately causing that friction, right? So you have that issue, and then Pluto decides to go direct. So that's another thing. So Pluto goes direct on September 30th, right? Pluto has been in retrograde for the past, like, a while now. And Pluto is the planet of death and transformation. Ironically, Pluto governs Scorpio. So that being said, also, Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus are actually covering the subconscious. So it's everything that's like past every other planet. It's the subconscious. It's far out there. It's connecting to those things, right? Because traditionally, Scorpio is ruled by Mars. However, modernly, it's ruled by Pluto, but it's really talking about things that are past the material realm, things that are far out from the material realm. Okay? Now, also, a lot of people confuse Pluto to just being just the planet of death and transformation. Pluto also has to do with desires, your desires, how you desire something, and the reason why you desire it, right? As humans, we are naturally, like, we want to know information, right? We come into this world, we're looking for information, we're looking for clues to figure out what this is all about. But Pluto really talks about the desiring aspect. So it is saying, I want to achieve this information or this experience. This is the reason why. What is making you want to do that? It is the desire to experience that lesson is ultimately what Pluto represents, okay? So from that, with Pluto going direct, it was already in retrograde, so it's going in its process of being like, this is everything that you've learned based off the things you have desired to learn. Now go back and look at all the things you learned and how it has transformed you into the person you are now. After it went through its process of transformation, which ultimately is shedding the old skin, so it's allowing you to be reborn, it decided to go direct. So now it means that we're no longer in that process of thinking about it, but we're actually doing it now, right? So Pluto, of course, is coming with a bang. It goes direct. It's starting a new path at this point. It's starting a new study, I should say. It's starting to process information where before it was kind of just, it was going back. It was reflecting on it. Now it's starting to rear up again to get new information. So that's going on during, on September 30th, right after we had this full moon in Aries. So now you're, and a moon doesn't just, it doesn't happen like 1 minute and then goes away and you feel like, a lot of people think like, and I could see why, because you think of all the cartoons and stuff that we've been watching or the movies. You see the full moon, the werewolf, you know, comes alive, and like it's a mess, you know what I mean? And it's one night, they crack their bones all over the place, turn into the werewolf, and then the next day they're back to being, you know, a human or a vampire, whichever show you decided to watch. So, or wolf pack. I say vampire because, yes, I watched Vampire Diaries, and Klaus was both. And so was his daughter. Yes, they go back to being a normal person or whatever the concept. Or a hybrid, like I said. So, after that concept of the full moon, people sometimes think, okay, well, you had the moment, the night, and then it was out. Technically, a full moon is really a 1 minute event. It's 1 minute. Hitting exactly where those coordinates are matching, opposing perfectly, it's 1 minute. But the moon does look as if it is completely full for about 3 nights in a row, and ultimately at the end of the day too, it's always either waxing or waning. So it always looks like a full moon for like 3 days, either right before the full moon, right after the full moon, whatever the case may be. And realistically speaking, though, the energy of that full moon, whether the full moon is a strong full moon, if it's a fiery moon, if it's a watery moon, an earthy moon, an airy moon, whatever the element that's behind it is really what's going to give it its strength. And then if it's an eclipse, that's a whole nother concept where it can last up to 6 months, you know, the energy of it, and you see it over time. However, when you do have a full moon and it's going in the process of the new moon, usually they're about 2 weeks apart, and there's about 4 weeks between a full moon to a full moon and a new moon to a new moon. So, that being said and done, when you have that full moon in Aries, you now have those 4 weeks to kind of see how things play out as far as closures, while that new moon is starting to kind of process, and ultimately at the end of the day, that new moon is going to be the one that kind of finishes everything out to make sure everything is clear to bring those new beginnings in. And by the next full moon, it's almost like a promise of closures to things that didn't make it along that way. All right, so that being said, after that long spiel, yes, Pluto went direct, and then right after that happened, Venus decided to go into retrograde. So even though Venus went into Scorpio on September 9th, it went into retrograde, like actually stationary retrograde from its pre-shadow retrograde, or I should just say its pre-shadow period. It went into retrograde on October 5th, and it will be in retrograde until November 16th. So the way that works was kind of like, all right, let's now that we have all this information, we went and touched on our dreams, right, with the Pisces full moon. We realized what was practical, the things that we needed, the steps that we needed to take. We then began to organize it, dig even deeper, right, because now Venus is entering into Scorpio, right? We're in the new moon in Virgo. Now we're able to dig even deeper, so that we were really able to bring up those beginnings, because we're clipping anything that doesn't go into positive direction and correlate with that energy and that ascension. Then right after, we had the Aries full moon, which is now spunky as hell because Venus is also in Scorpio, and there's a quincunx with that. And then you got Mars hanging out, working with both energies of both the sun and the moon. So now you got that fire, 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 spurt, spurt, spurt. This is how I feel. Bam. This is how I feel. Bam. The more you go, bam, 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 you're getting deeper, 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 deeper. And as you're getting deeper, those other moons from previously are still working, but they're working with the energies that are after. And ultimately, we get to Venus in retrograde. So Venus in retrograde is now saying, okay, I've thought about all these things. I've thought about my dreams. I've thought about this. I've thought about that. What's practical. Now I'm going to think about how the fact that this is the deep feeling of what I feel. These are the deep things that I need. Everything by going underneath the surface, right? Virgo went under the surface because Scorpio opened the gates. And now Virgo's down there like, okay, I'm getting details. But now it's like once you hit that very detail that's like, but wait, I might need that. Why do I need that detail? Why don't I want to clip that last root? There's something about that. So now it backtracks and it says, hold up. Let's stop clipping and let's look back at why everything that was underneath was actually why we got to where we are right now. Why was everything underneath making me get to this Pisces full moon, right? All the things that I've been through that I've been hiding underneath the surface are ultimately a heavy influence on my dreams, a heavy influence on why, yeah, I've wanted to be practical, but it's not really allowing me to be, because I have this trauma that's underneath that's causing me to really, like, if that's what's really getting in my way of, like, why my dreams are not happening. And, like, yeah, the Virgo side of myself, it's like, okay, but, like, let's get into the details and see what we need. And Venus in Scorpio in retrograde is kind of like, just stop. Stop. Everything is dark. Turn on the light. Click. And that is the reason why literally everything, while you're digging deep, trying to click roots and you're trying to use your flashlight, Venus in Scorpio in retrograde is like, oh, we're just going to turn the lights on. And then you see everything. Things that you didn't even want to really dig up. You're like, holy crap, I remember that, and I remember this, and I remember that over there, and I don't want to confront that. That doesn't even have to do with my dreams. Why am I seeing that over there? What is going on? There's so much shit going on. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. The intensity is starting to build and build and build and build and build. And that's ultimately where we are right now, right? So you have that intensity of Scorpio building and building and building, scaring the crap out of everyone, and now it's everywhere. It's ultimately showing you that your value really comes from approaching all angles of self, not just one area, not uncovering one area, but sometimes looking back into your deepest traumas might give you an answer. In 2018, you could be 50 years old and you start seeing things that have happened previously, you know, things that have happened when you were 7. Now you're 50 and the lights are on and you're like, oh my God, I totally forgot about that over there. You know, whatever's on that wall. I see that now. And now it makes sense with what's on this wall, and I'm putting those pieces together. But it's not as simple as that. It also comes from the fact that, like, oh my God, I have to approach these things and it's been such a long time, or I've hidden them and put them far out into my consciousness that I felt like I got rid of them, right? So that's pretty much where that concept of Venus in retrograde is going. The concept of Venus in retrograde in Scorpio mainly is going during this process of which has happened with the Aries full moon. I was parched. Okay. So that happens, and then that's when we get into Venus in Libra. So we finally got here, guys. Yay! So now we're in Venus in Libra. I'm sorry, not Venus in Libra. I'm crazy. Now we're in the new moon in Libra. We're not in Venus in Libra yet. We're getting there. We won't get there for a little bit, more towards November. But now we're at the new moon in Libra. So basically what this means is now it's time to find balance. Now, after all the things that you've just been through, with the dreams, with the detail critiquing, with the turning on the light for anything that's hidden, now it's time to find balance within that. And it's time to now take the tornado that you've been feeling and all that intensity and all that anxiety and anxiousness, and it's just like, okay, now I have to become level-headed, because again, my main thing was to get to that Pisces, right? That was my main thing. It was like, I had those dreams. I had the practicality that I was trying to really like channel. I was trying to channel my inner practicality, right? So, and it's a major thing to understand this, because this is one thing that Jim Carrey said, which I think is phenomenal, the way that he used this quote. He said a lot of us try to disguise fear as practicality, you know, and that's major. Because with the Pisces energy is our true inner want of dreaming, like our true dreams that we really genuinely want deep down, like subconscious, in the back of our mind, not even just deep down, but like in the back of our minds, where, you know, when I don't want to say we're on pilot mode, but our mind just stops, right? Because meditation, that is supported from the concepts of spirituality, is supported by meditation, is supported by, you know, taking time with self, healthy solitude. You know what I mean? That whole thing where that now I'm getting tongue tied. Meditation is something that Pisces love to do. It's a way to kind of tie all of the worlds together with your eyes closed, and you're kind of processing everything that's going on around you, tapping into past life stuff, tapping into future things that haven't even happened yet, but you're building that intuition to be able to channel some of that in, where you're able to kind of predict certain things, right? The more that you discover self, the more that you meditate, the more that you spend time in solitude, you start to be able to really strengthen your intuition. And strengthening your intuition can really ultimately strengthening, you know, an ability to understand the future, so you can now take the future, the past, and find that even compromise, which is what the full moons do. So basically, it's like saying, now that I have had a tornado all around me, I have to find balance, because if I don't, I can get sucked in deeper, right? You can be Persephone, and Hades could say you're not going anywhere, and doesn't even like send you back up when the seasons are correct, you know, in spring and summertime. Like, no, it's going to be winter all day, every day, 24/7. Like, you're not going anywhere. That's not healthy. So it's the concept of finding that balance and saying, okay, I've gotten rid of a lot of gook. I've confronted a lot of gook. And ultimately, I've heard the same story about what has happened as far as the new moon in Libra, because I went through it myself. My eyes were puffy as hell. I was crying like a baby. Everything that I held in for so many months, ever since I've had that moment of like, okay, these are my dreams, this is where I want to go, I have been yet to like be able to cry. Like, I haven't been able to get it out for like the last couple of months. And I didn't understand why. I was like, why can I not cry? And I'm an emotional person. I'm an emotional person. I'm intuitive. And like, I'm constantly working with different energies on a daily basis with all of my jobs that I do. And none of my jobs really are not working with people. So it's just a matter of like saying, oh my God, I have these emotions, but I have to find that level head. And that in itself can be scary, because now with all this information, you know, depending on what signs you are, like I'm a Venus in Libra, I am a Mercury in Libra, I'm a Moon in Libra. Like, I have so much Libra, and like, I naturally cannot stand drama. I don't like it. I run from it. I flee like crazy. And this moon sign is actually, this moon right now is teaching me, through even my moon, it's teaching me that, yes, I understand why you ran, right? Because it's understanding both sides, but I also understand that you have to handle your responsibilities. And that's what this new moon is ultimately about, okay? Now, I want to mention that there are two aspects with the new moon. There is the fact that it squares Pluto, and there also is the fact that it is quincunx to Neptune. Now, again, squaring means it offers some conflict. Now, squaring does not mean, oh my God, it's so much conflict and it's a negative aspect. It's more of a challenging aspect. And challenges are what ultimately gets you to a better place, right? I'm going to give you an example. Totally not even kidding. Totally calling myself out. I have somebody that I was kind of, interested in. Very, very nice guy. And I looked at our charts. We were becoming friends, looked at our charts, and it was all positive aspects. And I was like, oh, okay, this will be pretty simple and easy, right? Same thing happened to me a couple years ago, or so 2 years ago. I looked up somebody's chart and all positive aspects, right? Not even like somebody was trying to date, just It just happened. I just happened to, they asked me for their birth chart, I put it in, I just happened to like link our birth charts together, and the computer was like, oh, a positive aspect. I cannot express to you enough, even the computer says it, in order for you to really learn things, it's not about being easy. Some things have to be challenging. There has to be an even balance between the two things. You have to be able to have positive things, but you also have to be able to have challenging things. Not necessarily negative, but challenging. Because the challenge is what's going to challenge you to understand self. And ultimately, we're learning about ourselves through everyone else because they're our mirrored images. If you don't like something about somebody, it's because there's something within you that carries that same trait. Or it could be, it reminds you of somebody that you miss, or it can be that it reminds you of somebody that treated you wrong. Whatever the case may be, it's, we attract what we're ready for, and we attract ourselves within other people. That's pretty much how that is. And that being said, and understanding that, it's very important, very, very important to understand with the new moon being in Libra that it's about partnerships. So you have to pay attention to the fact of, yes, I have new beginnings, but it's most likely going to show you new beginnings in relationships, new beginnings in partnerships, new beginnings in even like a court case, things like that, because it is the Libra concept, right? All of that really has to do with it. It could also be value in relationships. It could also be new, I would say more so, I don't know if I would say food intake in relationships. That sounds kind of weird. But more so, it's like energy intake. Food is energy at the end of the day. It's not just food, you know, it's energy. So it is energy intake that you take from other people. So you might have to release certain people because the energy that they are feeding you is not actually nourishing your body. First house, nourishing, nourishment. Second house, Taurus, Venus. Get that concept. It's not nourishing your body. So Venus, which is the nourishment in Libra, I'm sorry, I'm having a moment. Venus in Scorpio is the depth. There we go. Venus in Scorpio is the depth of things, but then you have the new moon in Libra, right? So emotions in people, emotions in partnerships, emotions in justice system. Justice is ultimately, I would say it would be within compromising or doing something fair, right? So fair is helping self-value, though, at the end of the day. So it all kind of correlates with itself. It all helps itself. And again, at the end of the day, the destination is self-love. So that way it can bring you positive energy to go ahead and spread love and light to everybody else. Okay? But that being said, with the aspect of the confliction, right? The square, it is squaring Pluto. Now it's crazy, right? Because you have Venus in Scorpio, but it's quincunxing Pluto. It's squaring Pluto. So there's friction because now it's like, okay, I want harmony, right? I want harmony. I want everything to go over smoothly. And here is Pluto, like, hell no. It's not going to happen. There's not going to be that much harmony. You can find harmony, but you're not going to get rid of the fact that you are still going through a time period of destruction so it can be built back into something beautiful. You're not going to get away from that. So, that also being said, it doesn't mean that you won't find harmony, but it's going to cause a lot of uncomfortable conversations. It's going to cause a lot of just discomfort in like fleeing, pretty much. Discomfort and fleeing because the Libra energy is a fleeing energy. I also know this because I am a Virgo sun, but I am a Libra moon, and I like to flee when there's issues. So it is a fleeing energy. It doesn't want to go through death and rebirth because that's scary. It's like, well, why do I have to do that? Why can't I just kind of like hang out and then like just somehow be reborn? No, not how that works. Again, picking up the desires factor. I desire the things like these dreams that I wanted back in the Pisces full moon. This is why I desire these things and these experiences, because I haven't experienced these things yet. And the other stuff I've already experienced. These are the things that I want to get to, though. There's a reason why I want to get to those things, right? I desire those things. I desire those experiences, okay? But again, you can't be able to do that if you're not allowing yourself to have a little friction and to get deep down in there, right? Libras are so fluffy and playful, and they just want to have a good time all the time. No. Or there's another Libra side that's they're super about justice, and they don't have to be fluffy, but everything is about making sure things are fair, making sure things are right, making sure things got handled the way that they were supposed to. Well, it's not always going to happen when you're getting super, super, super deep into things, and when you're going through that process of death and rebirth. So that's pretty much what's happening with them being square. Now you have a Queen Conks, and the Queen Conks is actually with Neptune. The reason to go over the Queen Conks, just so for those that haven't seen other previous videos and know what that means, Queen Conks basically means that the two energies have like nothing in common, and with them having nothing in common, it's hard for them to blend, but it also like they kind of like bump heads a little bit and are kind of awkward. So kind of stay in their lane and they stay as individuals. However, like with individuals, they might not necessarily work together, but they'll try to, but still stay in their areas, right? So Neptune it governs Pisces, okay? And Neptune is a very dreamy energy. It can bring up a lot of romantic style, like, vibes, okay? Dreamy vibes, precious vibes, okay? So to have the new moon in Libra, okay, and then go ahead and have it's Queen Conks, the Neptune, okay? What that's basically saying is the fact that it's hard to get to that balance because now you have all these things going on where you're going deep, 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 and here comes Neptune wanting to kind of make you delusional about everything, kind of pushing over this dream world, this dream mist over everything, and it's hard for you to get to that balance because now it's like you're getting yelled at by Pluto because Pluto's like, let's get there, death, rebirth, let's get to where we need to go. Venus is like, I'm on board, right? I'm ready to rock, right? You're starting to really get deep with that. Your relationships are getting a lot deeper and deeper and deeper. And then at the end of it, here comes Neptune with its romantic ways. Like, okay, well, you're deep, you're having some friction, but like, can we just like dream a little bit more? And realistically speaking, it's not saying it's bad, because those dreams might remind you of the original dreams that you had at the Pisces full moon. However, it's also making things complicated because it's just not leveled out. It's like, okay, well, we've been doing all this. The whole point was we had dreams. Now we're here at this point, and now you're trying to have us dream more when we're like trying to, like, there's just so much. There's no dreaming anymore. You turn on the light, right? Venus and Scorpio in retrograde. You turn the light on. How am I supposed to dream? I'm present right now. There's no dream world. We're here right now, right? So it's that kind of like nitpicky, awkward, two different vibes, trying to like chill, but it just doesn't really happen. That's that. So those were the aspects as far as the new moon in Libra. And what that ultimately is going to do is, especially since it's conflicting with Pluto, it can cause some tears. It can cause some frustration. It could cause some anxiousness, right? Because you just so badly don't want to deal with all those things. You so badly don't want to deal with all the hidden secrets of yourself. You know, we even hide secrets from our own self or forget about things from the past that we don't have to deal with them. We don't want that. But that's ultimately what is happening. Like, it's going to get into the nitty-gritty, all right? And that being said, eventually we get to, oh, I'm sorry, before I even go into that, I was in the mid-sentence. That being said, it can cause you to have some fear, some tears, And Venus in Scorpio in retrograde is not playing games. Like, you can cry. Go ahead and cry. This is what I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about the twin soul concept. So, this is a very heavy moment for you to, a lot of the twin souls to kind of find each other. Twin souls, twin flames. I will be making a video on this. There is a difference between soulmates and twin souls or twin flames, however you want to put it. Because I had someone earlier, I had someone say, Venus and Scorpio energy is not an energy that is meant to be played with. It's just not. It is an energy that really brings out that depth. And bringing out that depth can definitely match you up with your twin soul. And it pushes you to see that there's a runner. It pushes you to see that there's someone who needs to stand up for the relationship. It pushes you to see that there needs to be compromise. It pushes you to see that you see each other in each other's whole auras, in each other's whole vibes. So this is a time period that twin souls will definitely, not saying that every twin soul will, but many twin souls will definitely, things will click, things will be, you know, easier to understand, and everything makes sense, you know, that will be something, alright? Last but not least, we have a full moon coming up, right after we just had this Libra new moon, and the full moon is in Taurus, okay? This will be on October 24th. So we had the new moon, having a moment. Oh, see? Making notes, and now I understand why everything was messy. I get it now. Because I wrote down Venus and Libra. That's why I kept saying Venus and Libra instead of new moon in Libra. Anyway, new moon in Libra, October 8th, and now you have the full moon on October 24th in Taurus. Ultimately, it comes down to, once you find the even balance, now it's about keeping it maintained and creating stability out of what you have created, right? So, it's the balance of the emotions, it's the balance of the ego, and ultimately it is also the stable balance of self, right? Because again, value comes from the Taurus house, the second house. So having the full moon in Taurus would definitely say, okay, I'm going to completely get rid of the things that are in my way that value myself, right? Because of the fact that Taurus stands for value, second house. So, we will talk more about the full moon in Taurus. I just wanted to go over everything so you kind of see how things correlate, how things kind of like move into each other and blend out. Very important to understand. But we've covered everything, and I hope that this video helps you, because then now you'll know like where we are as far as the transits, and you'll start thinking about how this applies to your personal life, and then you can go from there. Okay? So I want to thank you guys for listening, and I hope that this reaches people in the morning. It is now super late. It's also super funny because I just got a message from one of my sorority sisters that just posted in our chapter board, so I'm not the only person that's up. Makes me super happy. But yes, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. Again, I do astrology readings, I do tarot readings, I work with holistic healing methods, so I work with people and I utilize holistic healing methods to heal someone naturally rather than trying to rely on medication. So if you guys have any questions about that, please feel free to direct message me personally, email me, or text me if you have my phone number. Okay? So I hope that this information sits well with all of you, and yeah, I think that's it. I'm actually like, my eyes are like slowly closing like this. I'm super, super tired. It's almost 4 o'clock in the morning. So again, I hope you guys have a beautiful day. If you do get to me about anything that what I'm telling you guys this weekend, I promise you that I will answer you back early next week. This weekend is going to be awesome. I'm going to be going to a 30th anniversary. So for all of my sisters, my sorority, I want to say happy 30th birthday to all of you, and super excited about that, and I can't wait to see you this weekend. And yeah, that would be Learn to Tell Omega Sorority Incorporated. So love you guys. See you, Quinn. I think that's all the announcements that I have. Cool. Alright guys, have a beautiful day, and love and light. Finish.